Welcome to Footy Talks. Footy Talks. Footy Talks, your Thursday footy fix. Luke, Stephen and KJ with you as always. And today,
for me, it would be great to come back to Toronto. Even if I can come back as a player, it will be great because I will love it.
They're moving back to Toronto and they want to move back into the house. So within the next month and a half, I think I got to find a new house.
I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe because I sleep a little bit on the plane.
But as soon as I looked up and saw the trajectory, I knew it was a goal. And then from that moment on, I kind of I lose my mind a little bit and don't know what to do. So I ran to the bench.
Hey everybody, Luke Whelm alongside Stephen Caldwell and Christian Jack. Welcome along to Footy Talk. Some great memories there in that opening of the show. We've been going on for some time now, but we are finally at the end of the regular season in Major League Soccer as we build up to Decision Day and then, of course, on to the playoffs. But KJ, when we started this back at the end of March, I don't think anyone would have expected what this season was going to look like. Bubbles in Orlando, points per game deciding seasons. Would there be a season? All the stuff that's gone on to get to this point is quite incredible as we look ahead to what's going to be a fantastic show today with Victor Montagliani, the president of CONCACAF, and also Justin Morrow as well joining us. It's been quite a ride over the last few months.
It certainly has. I think we've spoke about this a bit before, but there's lots of soccer going on right now, and there's not a lot of other sport going on. So we can be forever thankful and appreciative that that's happening. I know I've been working the last couple of days, my radio show with the European Champions League, which has been absolutely brilliant to watch, I have to say, so entertaining. And, I know there's no crowds there, but at least we have that. And last night there was, 5 or 6 matches in MLS, kept an eye on a lot of those games. And, this morning, and a little bit of a collective sigh of relief. I think everybody in the league and everybody who watched it, that those games were able to get in and play those games and get them done. And now here we are with another hurdle this week where hopefully we can all get over that one and get these games done and get towards a playoff system that isn't a bubble. So again, the risk is there. But we just keep riding this season and hopefully we can get to the end of the finish line, Stevie.
Yeah, Sunday's important, isn't it? We're hoping that we don't get any bumps in the road on Sunday because it is important that everybody within their conference plays at the same time. So there's a real battle, obviously, in the Eastern Conference for that. The last remaining 2, I think it is, playoff spots. So, fingers crossed everybody plays. It's been a condensed schedule. It really has. I mean, we've been lucky enough to work a lot of these games, and we know how busy we've been. I can only imagine what it's like for the players running 10 to 13K every single game and then being ready 3-4 days later. So again, I always say it, but credit to them. It's been mentally challenging and physically exhausting. So they've done a magnificent job to keep the standard up high. Look, it's been good football. There's been some good performances, and I'm very excited for the playoffs because I think it's a very open season and sort of anybody can come away with this if they hit form at the right time.
But you know what? You don't have to care about the players right now because you're not one anymore. You're on the other side of it. And I'm going to be pushing for as many games as possible during next season as well because I love the Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. I remember when I was working back home in the BBC and we'd got 5 or 6 clubs that we would cover in our area and do well over 100 games a season. And if you weren't doing Saturday and a Sunday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday and then a Friday night and a Saturday, I mean, I remember a Friday night in Leeds followed by a Saturday in Southend, which is like ridiculous driving. But you're not trying if you're not doing that many games. So listen, yes, it takes its toll on the players, but this stretch that we've seen since it restarted to now, I think has been great because there have been games coming so often. Not just for the team that you're following, and we talked a little bit about this during the bubble when everything was happening in Orlando and all these games were on. It just gives people a lot more. I think it's the momentum that's built up through the August, September, October to get us to the point where we are now is much better than just seeing games once a week, Stevie.
Yeah, and you feel like you've got more of a handle on the league, I guess, if you're a general fan. Obviously, it's our job to research what's going on, but the games are coming, in such familiar, I guess, or regular succession that, you can keep up, who's playing well, who's got injured. And that's what they've always needed, isn't it, KJ? They've needed that sort of Premier League type rhythm where you kind of know when teams are playing, where they are in the standings, and That's what we want. We want MLS to be recognised all over, and we want everyone to care about every game. And I feel like this season, I'm in amidst the craziness has really added to that. Do you agree?
I do agree with that. Last night's another example of it, guys. There's not a lot of sports going on. And, unless you're, wanting to fill 60 minutes of Sports Center in North America with election chat, which you can't, then you got to put sports on. So, MLS Champions League highlights all over that. And so I think it's a real example of that. And I think it's, for me, a platform for that I would hope in the playoffs. And I know the playoffs brings other challenges where you're going to try and figure out when teams get through similarly, they're going to meet up in the next round. But for me, I want to see games on a Tuesday. I want to see them on a Wednesday, put them on a Friday night, try and avoid the NFL a little bit on the Thursday, whatever it takes. Figure it out, get in those windows, because people can find sports and they'll crave it. And the other thing I think about the games coming thick and fast, certainly charter flights has certainly helped with that. Yeah. But I think talking to some of the players across the league and people within the teams, I think they've really enjoyed it. The players like to play. And of course, physically, that eventually the bodies will tell them when they're done. But a lot of the times, they're not programmed to tell you they're done before they are done. They're programmed to just keep going through it. And I think with some of the teams, I think they've galvanized them. I really do. I think they've brought together again another togetherness that you can see on the field, and it's helped them. Some others potentially not. But I really think that it's certainly in the case of Toronto FC, I think it's helped them too. Games that have come thick and fast have been a big positive.
And hopefully for TFC perspective, they're going to be able to, with a couple of weeks between games on decision day and then in towards that first playoff game, at least get a few players back, because that has been one of the issues with all of the games coming, especially when a number of the players went down at the same time. And we can talk a little bit about that later in the show and their response that they got against Miami in that last game when we have Justin Morrow on. But one of the other good things about this show that I've enjoyed is the chance that we've had to share some memories as we've look back over, soccer from the past. And this was one that yesterday I saw you tweeting about, Stevie. On this day in 2002, Newcastle United beat Middlesbrough at St. James's Park, thanks to goals from Shola Amiobi and Steve O'Caldwell, who's doing the shirt ripping off there on the
Look at that.
Hey?
Kissing the badge. What an idiot.
Oh, kissing the badge. Oh, I thought you were going to rip off your jersey and show you.
The badge as I scored and ran towards the corner. And
oh, boy.
Yeah, what a memory. Yeah, crazy to be kissing the badge. But anyway, that's how I felt at the time.
Why? Why, though?
Well, because
he plays for Sunderland.
Yeah.
He's a Geordie badge kisser.
I was playing for the rivals, It's kind of awkward. But no, it's... I don't think any player should kiss a badge, because at the end of the day, you're a professional. You're going to be asked to go and do a job somewhere else. So it's kind of crazy. But I have to say, in that moment, it was very spontaneous. I obviously never planned it, never expected to score a goal. And I was overcome with emotion because it was a really tough time for me at Newcastle. I was sort of on the verges of moving on. And so that chance was like my last opportunity, I would say, to really prove to Sir Bobby that I deserved a place in that squad and play some games for that magnificent club. So I felt the pressure. I was definitely aware that I needed to play well, to be good, and to kind of score the final goal in a 2-0 victory is sort of perfect for a defender when you get the clean sheet and you get that moment of glory. And I was just overcome with emotion, kissing the badge. And I love the picture because you guys know what kind of esteem I hold Gary Speed in, and he's beside me and he's smiling, and he was such an influence in my career, trying to advise me on what was best. And then I have Shola, who came through the system with me, who was playing with me in games at Maiden Castle, University of Durham, in front of nobody at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. So it's a very special moment for me. And even when I talk about it now, 18 years later, the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. It's just amazing.
What kind of a goal was it, though, Stevie?
A brilliant goal. Absolutely fantastic. Every goal that hits the back of the net is brilliant. Look, that's what you need to know, especially against your rivals. But it was like a tackle. Did you see it? What?
No, I haven't seen it. No, I just...
So Mark Schwarzer comes for the ball and he drops it. It's a poor goalkeeping error. And it lands KJ. And I'm sort of behind and I lean back and I just... Can I get my side foot /studs it and bash it in the net? It was kind of ugly goal, but I don't care. It's in the back of the net.
Erling Haaland scores ugly goals all the time, mate. Who cares? You see his goals this week? It doesn't matter, mate. Just put it in the back of the net. And there you go. Yeah, I did compare you to Erling Haaland.
Thank you.
I would actually probably rather interview Stevie post-game than Erling Haaland because he's tricky sometimes.
No. Like, now you brought that up, I need to say something.
Go on. Go on.
Interviewing people is a skill. And you've got to figure out what you need to talk to these people about before you just start throwing out things out your mouth. He's getting a bad rap, this kid. I've seen some people who know how to interview him properly and speak to him properly, and then he'll give you a proper answer. But you know what? You get what you get. You get what you're given. You don't put anything into your questions, you're not going to get anything back in your answers. And those questions that I asked him yesterday, and the guy asked him about who's sleeping in his bed because he said about he likes to get his hat-trick balls and put them in his bed when he sleeps. And he got 2. And the guy said to him, "So you'll be sleeping alone tonight, then, will you?" Because but nobody knew what he was talking about. and then they go back to the desk, and Carragher's almost falling all over the desk because he doesn't know what he's on about. Because he said to some young, good-looking footballer, "Are you sleeping alone tonight?"
I will say that one of the things that you're great at it, KJ, in terms of when you go into an interview. It isn't just about turning up, and it's different when it's on a match day and you've got to get something out of these people at either halftime or full time when maybe they don't want to talk. But like, say for example, when you went to speak to Wayne Rooney or Zlatan, and you're doing these interviews with these big guys for TSN, you have to get their respect before they are going to give you the interview. So right. either this is interview number 10 of the day, and it's going to be the same cliche that they've given everybody else, or you're going to do something different with them or earn their respect early by, it's like with Thierry Henry. If you talk to him about something that you bring up from his career that happened in the late 90s, he knows that he knows that you either know the game or you've put the work in, and he's going to respond with a better answer.
Yeah, no, it's true. I appreciate that, Luke. I mean, I'm not certainly one that wants to talk about myself. It's not about me. And I mean that by, honestly, that is very much part of making a successful interview, is that no one's there to listen to you. They're there to listen to them. And your job is to get it out of them as soon as you possibly can. And, that's why a lot of the time, when you guys throw down to me at halftime and I've got Greg Vanny or Thierry Henry at halftime, the first question usually I want to ask them is, what are your thoughts on the first half? That's all I need to ask them. I don't need to tell them my opinion or whatever, unless there's a big story developed. And sometimes I've done that and I've had to get, Biello was wound up one time when there was a big fight right before it. And I knew that the moment I asked him a question and put a microphone under his mouth, he was going to get fined. But I had to do it, and he did because he was furious, but he had things to say. So sometimes you've got to read their body language in that Montreal game. But yeah, for the most part, that's the case. And particularly with Zlatan and Rooney, it's trying to make it as unique as you possibly can. So, I watched so much interviews before that, try and make it a little bit different. And try and give the audience something new. And, that I think that's important. And then they enjoy it with that as well, because they don't want to be talking about the same things over and over again. Stevie, I'm sure you've been there as an athlete and you get a question, and you're like, oh, you just become on autopilot and you're not really getting anything out of that person then anyway.
Yeah, well, these guys don't want to give anything away. Like, they just want to get it done and do their obligations and move on. So it's a guy, the skill set you used to, fellas, who, almost relax us as football players and take us off our guard. And I think that's what you do so expertly well, KJ. You take these guys off their stoic. I'm just going to answer this as simply and as quickly as possible and give no insight to my personality. You
were boring, weren't you, Stevie, as a player at post-game interviews?
You know what? They always put me up for post-game interviews because I never shut them anywhere I played. And I'm telling
you were boring.
Yeah, probably a little bit. I tried to be. When I'm at Sunderland, I would just,
one game at a time.
Tough interviews at Sunderland. They would always ask me because the guys didn't want to go in front of the press and answer why we've lost the last or not won in 10 games or whatever it may be. So
you weren't kissing the badge then.
It's horrible. It's hard, but it's always nice to talk about something that you're passionate about. So KJ finds someone in a book or someone in an old game where Zlatan loves to remember games, and KJ asks him about a Champions League game in 2006, and all of a sudden his eyes light up. You see it, and then the next question he's into it, and he's forgot that he's he's this world superstar who's trying to give nothing away, he's now just a kid again, or just a guy who's in love with the game of football.
Yeah. I learned very quickly, as KJ said, about how you don't want to impose your thoughts on the interview, especially at halftime or at full time. You only say the wrong thing to Neil Warnock once at the end of a game, whether it's, oh, you were rather unfortunate. You're rather fortunate to win that today, Neil. Which game were you watching, son? Like, okay, but and so every time after that I interviewed him, it was always, Neil, your thoughts on the game today. And it's just he goes them for 3-4 minutes, and that's it.
There's a guy in Scotland called Chick Young. I don't know if you guys know him, but Chick's a BBC guy. He's very famous. Been interviewing players for years. Not on so much these days, but there's a very good one where he's at the tunnel at Ibrox and he's interviewing Walter Smith. Now, what a scary man Walter can be when he loses it. And Chick asks him about Basil Bolly, who's just joined Rangers from Marseille, brilliant defender.
Yeah.
Asks him, about Basil Bolly, like not settling in and not being up to the standard, something along the lines. And Walter just loses it. He destroys him for like 2 minutes. What are you talking about? Obviously it got cut. It never went to air. It wasn't live, but someone got the video and it's out there on YouTube. Go watch it, guys. I love it. It's so funny, and it's so Walter how he can just destroy somebody in a second.
Oh, this time next week, your Scottish boys will be going for glory and a place in the Euros. We'll
live on
TSN a week from now. The roller coaster that is being in the studio with Stevie when Scotland are playing in a big game. Still to come on for that. Justin Morrow of Toronto FC, as we talk about what's been a crazy season for him, both on and off the pitch, and also all of the work he's been doing with the Black Players for Change organization in Major League Soccer, and getting the vote out this past week and the last few weeks that have taken a lot of his time as well. But delighted to be joined by Victor Montagliani, who is much more important than any of us could ever dream of being. The vice president of FIFA, the president of CONCACAF, former president of Canadian soccer, and all-round good guy. Great to see you. How are you, Vic?
Very good. How are you?
Good. We're just talking about some difficult interviews. I hope that you're going to be good with us today.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm at the top of that list tonight. So.
Listen, first, I just want to, before we get into some details about things and some specific questions, what's it been like for you as the head of a confederation, someone that's involved heavily with a global soccer movement, trying to deal with this and trying to get your work done and everything that you need to do in a time when you can't be hopping on the plane every other day and going to meet people and just traveling around the world? I mean, you've had more air miles than anybody I ever know, but your job when you're grounded, what are the tricky things that you had to navigate? What's it been like?
I think first and foremost, I always like to take things in perspective. I think navigating as the head of a confederation or a vice president of FIFA pales in comparison to what people really have to do in their everyday life. So I take that with a grain of salt, to be quite honest. It's, being in football, I think at any level is a privilege. And that's whether you're in a pandemic or not. And so the reality is that we're not as important as people think we are. Or I like to think that anyway. But our challenges from a business standpoint are no different than any other business. You're trying to keep your membership, your stakeholders, happy and relevant. Obviously, your sponsors and your partners as well. You're trying to get the game on the pitch in a responsible manner, but also try to get it on the pitch because, as we know, football means a lot to people, or entertainment means a lot to people, and so. Football is entertainment at the end of the day. I know for some of us that the game is in our DNA. Sometimes it's hard to think of football as entertainment because it's just part of our life, and we live and die by a result or live and die by something. But at the end of the day, it is entertainment, and people need it, and more than ever now. And you see that by some of the sort of numbers that people are turning in to watch some of these matches because they crave it more than ever. And so, I'm happy about what we've done in our region with our leagues that have, in one way or fashion or another, they come back and play. And it hasn't been easy. Our CONCACAF league, as you've seen with the the run of results by Forge, which is tremendous for the sport in our country, and also our Champions League, which we announced the other day, with Montreal still having obviously a shot to getting through past the quarterfinal stage. And so, that's what we're trying to do is try to get as normal as possible in terms of our business. To be honest with you, the traveling has been a bit of a blessing in disguise in some ways, because it's just at times it gets too much. But there is a part of you also. It's not the traveling per se. It's the human connection, I think, that we all miss. We miss it whether we can't see our even just in your own city, you can't see your friends and your family. Well, football for a lot of us is family too, right? It's an extended family, so it's the same feeling. You miss seeing people, maybe some more than others, but you miss seeing people and that interaction. And quite frankly, there is no feeling like being in a football stadium. And when you walk in and you literally smell the grass on the pitch, that smell of that grass, especially when it's freshly cut and watered, there's nothing like it. It's the only other thing that I know that is equivalent to that smell of grass is my mom's tomato sauce on a Saturday morning. So that's the only other thing that brings a smile to my face.
You have to say that.
Yeah. So, well, she could be watching, right? So you got to say that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like that. And I'm not just saying that, as a player or former player, you actually that there's a feeling of emotion that comes over you when you first walk onto the pitch. But I think even as a fan, as soon as you see that green patch with the white lines, it's like, ooh, you get that sense of wow, that tingling feeling in the top of your mouth, right? And so you miss that, absolutely miss it, right?
Vic, you mentioned obviously the CONCACAF Champions League and your plans. I want to get to that in a second, but because you just mentioned Forge there, they were on TSN this week again. What a fantastic week it's been for them. I know part of your legacy with the Nations League is extended invites to so many others that potentially didn't have it before. And I know you're covering more than just Canada, but Forge is an example of that, isn't it? People I know now, even in the game here in Canada, are asking me, what's this CONCACAF League? That people were aware of it before. And that's a great thing for CONCACAF as well, that you extend that invitation to these people, and Forge is so far delivering it with abundance.
Seems like Vic's just dropped out there. Is it my camera or is it Vic?
I think it's Vic.
I think it's Vic.
Okay. So we'll try to get Vic back in a couple of moments. Victor Montagliani, the president of CONCACAF, with us here on Footy Talks. Still to come, Justin Morrow as well. You mentioned Forge this week, and that is quite a story. There aren't many teams. I mean, even if it was an MLS team, and you talk about, it's the Champions League, and you're going down to Tauro in Panama.
Seriously,
you would wonder if that was going to be a result that they can get down there. So for Forge to do that, it's fantastic, KJ.
Yeah, brilliant story. And they've played without fear too. As for me, it's just to see a group go down there and with the ball and really take it to these teams. And they've got some big personalities on that team. Becker and David Edgar, we know a little bit, and I like that. And obviously Bobby runs a real good ship there in terms of that. But a lot of other teams, I think, not just Canadian teams, but as you said, that you go down there a lot of those times, and the culture there and the environment, and you're kind of beaten before the game starts. So I don't want this. And the other thing about Forge is I know they had the Island Games, but they haven't, they haven't had a lot of preparation for this, and they've been absolutely brilliant. Vic, I know you're back. It's great to see you again. Thanks for coming back to us. We didn't miss anything. You just missed.
You just offer some tomato sauce because it is like
exactly, yeah.
Early morning there.
Vic's back, so hopefully he can hear us. No, it's all good. We literally jumped off. You froze just as I asked you the question about Forge and the extension of the league there.
Yeah, listen, I think my hat's off to that organization. That's a difficult thing to do on the best of times, and then when you're on the road, as they are, like traveling Wilburys, going from El Salvador to Panama, and then pulling off those results. I know that the stadiums weren't packed with fans because no stadium is, but it's still a difficult thing to do. So my hat's off to the organization. But it's also, an example of when you give people opportunities, and having a league in Canada, I think, is a tremendous boost to the game. That's what really the last 4 years in our region is building and giving. Everybody talks about the pillars of football, coaching development and player development, but the one pillar that's always been missing, I feel, in our region and really Canada has been opportunity. One of the biggest differences between us and Europe is everybody talks about Iceland, for instance. Well, it's great, but also those players can jump on the ship and go play in any country in Europe with no problems, no passport issues, no problem. If they're good enough, they sign them. There's nothing really in between. Well, in our country, we've not had those opportunities. One, there hasn't been an abundance of leagues. Going overseas is more difficult. And now that you're starting to see more opportunities, you're starting to see players perform, players that, Mobile Bully. Look at Mobile Bully. What a great story, right? And so that's what football is all about, and those are the stories that are common in what I call more traditional footballing countries. And whereas in our country, we haven't had the opportunities to create those stories, but now we are. And I think that's the biggest difference. And we're doing it in our region too. There's, for instance, a club from Honduras has had a great run. I mean, they're up 1-0 or 2-1 against Montreal. That's a good club, Olympia. They're a good club. And as Seattle found out, they're a good club, right? So here's Seattle champion. You can say, well, Seattle was, just starting of their season. Frankly, that's bullshit. If you're Seattle Sound, they're champion of MLS, you should be handling those kind of teams on paper anyway. Handling, and they didn't. So I think it's good for the region that more opportunities are there.
Yeah, KJ alluded to it earlier, Vic, the Champions League decision. I'd like to hear maybe a little bit more about that, and how pleased are you that you're actually going to get this Champions League, CONCACAF Champions League season finished, and there's going to be awarded a winner?
Yeah, I think, listen, we had the benefit of some time, unlike our European counterparts, to get it done because they were butting up against the next season. Ours is not starting until next spring. So we had a bit of time. We also wanted to give our stakeholders like MLS, Liga MX, and other leagues a chance to finish their seasons. And so they all did. Bubble and CPL had their island games, and Liga MX is finishing their clausura, and even in Central America. So we had the benefit of that, but we already had the plans in place, and we're pleased to announce a centralized location. We are going to be having the 8 teams come in. Obviously, all the COVID protocols, all that's in place. And after about 8 days of football, we'll crown our Champions League champion and then move forward. And hopefully next year we'll get back to some normalcy in the spring. We'll see. But the exciting thing about our Champions League too is that we've been working diligently, because I've said it many times that we have to evolve our Champions League to the next level. So there's not enough games in our Champions League. They're great. It's a knockout stage, but we need more games. And you can see, no disrespect to the leagues in our region, but other than Liga MX games, especially the top games, Champions League games blow away every other football in our region. And so, the fans are demanding more games. And so I think it behooves us to give them more games. So we're looking at a new and expanded version of Champions League. We'll hopefully to announce that at some point in the early part of 2021. But
that would be for further down the line, not for...
Further down the line, yeah. So we want to make the announcement next year so that our partners, our stakeholders have, perhaps a year or two to get ready for that transition of an expanded version of a Champions League.
Do you just have fingers crossed right now that everything clears up by the spring and into the summer there? You've got World Cup qualifying, the Gold Cup obviously coming. Or do you have various different plans and scenarios that you're working on right now for if this is still happening, or if this is this level, or, countries still won't have borders open, that sort of thing? Where are you at in terms of how many balls you're juggling with the different plans you have moving forward, Vic?
Yeah, listen, you have to be ready. There's no doubt about it. It's a bit of a Rubik's Cube at times, but in the same token, I think from a World Cup qualifying standpoint, I'm confident that we will play those games in March. Now, you may not be playing them in front of fans, You might have the odd country having to find a neutral venue. But for the most part, I think most of the countries will be ready come the end of March to play a home and away. In fact, most of them are ready now. Just you have to follow the protocols. And so I'm confident that March is not an issue. And obviously, as we go further along, I'm optimistic about not only a vaccine situation, but obviously even the way our medical professionals are treating this issue, that we'll get back slowly to some normalcy by the summer. And by the time we kick off the Gold Cup, the first week of July, we should recognize a football match to what we used to see it before. In the U.S., they're even at the height of this thing now. Maybe there's some political issues there, but they're still putting 25% of the fans in there. So, and we're at a pretty high point. You would think by next summer we would be reaching a more manageable point, especially from a medical perspective. So, from a logical standpoint, we think that there'd be more than 25% of fans in the stadium by next summer.
Vic, before you came on, I was talking about the UEFA Champions League. Obviously, we've been watching those games the last 3 weeks in a row. It's been great because the momentum's really built because the pandemic has allowed us to have those 3 weeks in a row. And what we know about the UEFA Champions League is it's indisputable. It's the elite. It's the top competition in the world game. And it's really driving tactical trends at the highest level as well. And the best teams are playing at the best level. And you just said something there about the CONCACAF Champions League that really piqued my interest. And I would love to see that here in this region. And is that part of the buy-in about expanding it? And using that word again, do you have that buy-in from those stakeholders? Because obviously MLS and Liga MX have got to concentrate on getting their own leagues sorted out and the schedule within. But in an ideal world, do you see that expanding to push the level of the quality of both leagues together and other leagues as well?
Yeah, listen, I think if you look at European football, the Champions League has been, in credit to UEFA, has been really the driver. It's a slippery slope and it's an edge because, you hear every few years about breakaways and which would kill domestic football. And I'm on board with my UEFA, Alexander, who, obviously is very wary of that. But, the Champions League has also been a tremendous driver of football. One, because it generates revenue that comes back into the club system and the league system, but also made European football a lot more relevant. Because, with all due respect, I'm not sure even clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona, for the average person, they really were exposed to Real Madrid and Barcelona, not because they watch La Liga, right? Now, guys like us would watch La Liga, but the average guy on the street, he's going to watch it through the Champions League. And that's where that brand of a lot of the clubs rose to prominence, right? It's not because they won their domestic titles. It's because they were recognized through the Champions League and their success in the Champions League, and obviously players that play in the Champions League. And I think that is the shift that has to happen here. We've been a bit insular with respect to how we look at our football. We've been, we lack the relevancy sometimes in connecting it to the international stage. And to me yes, it has to happen both. You have to raise the level of your domestic leagues, and the MLS is doing that, and obviously Liga MX is doing that. But without a strong confederation tournament that goes to the next level, those leagues will never be relevant. And I hate to say that, and they may not agree with me, but I think history has shown that, and there's enough data to show that what I just said is true. That you have to have a pan-confederation quality football, and quite frankly, you have to have those iconic matches. And in our case, it would be more Liga MX versus more MLS. But if you're in Central America, you have rivalries there. You also have rivalries between them and Mexican teams. Obviously, a Canadian US matchup is always a rivalry. And listen, 10 years from now, you don't know where leagues like the CPL are going to be. The CPL has already had some, scalped a few heads in Canadian championships. So, it'd be interesting to see what they do if they get into the Champions League. And those are moments that I think build the relevancy of your football. And I think that's really, really important to build on that. And that's, to be honest with you, the next frontier for our region.
Vic, I want to ask you about international competition now as well. Obviously, it's been a challenging year to miss so many windows of fixtures, and it means that the schedule's really packed for 2021. Are you confident that you have the right format, that it's going to stick to the one that you've set out, and that everyone can get the games in and play what's required with a Gold Cup, Nations League, qualifiers for a World Cup? Are you confident that you have the right format to get that done?
Yeah, I mean, we are talking with FIFA on specifically on the World Cup format. We're speaking to FIFA because we know we have to rejig the calendar a little bit on the back end more than on the front end. So that would be post Gold Cup. We need to find a couple of dates, and we already tentatively have them with FIFA. We just haven't really announced them. But we're not the only confederation that's doing that. All of us are in the same boat. Africa is, Asia is, even Europe is, because they got a multitude of things too, between Euro qualification, Nations League. So we're all in the same boat, which makes it a little easier when you're discussing these things. So, I'm confident that we're going to be able to pull all of this off and play. Now, the stipulation is, are you going to play in front of fans or not? I think that's the biggest question. But in terms of executing the games, as you've seen what's happened in Europe, they're playing, they're executing games. And I think even the powers that be understand that, look at the UK, they're shutting down the country, unfortunately, but the EPL is keeping on going because they understand the importance of that. And also, I think we're getting better dealing with it. You see, players are getting, unfortunately, getting infected with COVID. So they have to be out for 14 days. Team keeps training, keeps playing. So they have the whole protocol down with isolation and all that. So we're learning how to actually manage football and play football with this unfortunate thing called COVID, because you need to. And we've had it in the CONCACAF League. We've postponed games. We've held teams back. We've isolated teams. We've done this. We've done that. Because if you don't do that, if you don't learn how to manage through this, then you're obviously not going to be able to do it. And it's managing risk at the end of the day. I mean, there's only one way to eliminate risk, and that's not do anything at all. And that's not really an option.
Right. Last one for me, Vic. I know you play a massive role in CONCACAF, but I know you also sit with the board, and you mentioned the thing about the breakaway with the European Super League you mentioned earlier, and what Alexander Seferin's come out and said. And I think it's pretty clear you're adamant on what you think of what's these threats keep coming up, but it's integral, is it not, that we remain steered in towards the direction of domestic leagues over the European Super League and just allow things to develop that way?
Yeah, listen, I think in Europe's unique, right? Europe, I think, is a very mature market and very mature culture when it comes to football. And, and I think UEFA and the UEFA president's position is spot on when it comes to that, because obviously it would create problems. So, maybe in other confederations, you might have a better opportunity to think about those kind of things, because perhaps the maturity level of leagues is not there. In fact, in some confederations, there's not a lot of leagues, obviously. So I think everybody's a little bit different, but you have to also be careful with that, because at the end of the day, it's the whole premise about the Canadian League and why I was so adamant when I was president of Canadian Soccer, because in my opinion, you are not relevant as a country if you don't have your own domestic league, period. That has been the history of football. Football is two things, club and country. That's it. There's no in between. And it's not like any other sport in the world. I don't know any other sport in the world where those two emotions are steeped in very strong feelings. Not, even hockey, with all due respect, club and country, what, a manufactured Canada Cup that 6 countries play. Yeah, all the best to you. An Olympics that, with your eyes closed, you're going to be playing in a medal game because nobody else plays the sport. So I know I'm taking a few shots at hockey here, but that's my. Although I'm a big hockey fan, but it's the reality of it. Like so KJ, careful. You don't want to tell your producers that your bosses at TSN that I'm going to go at hockey here.
It's okay.
But it's the reality. It's the reality of it, right? It's our sport is unique. It's a global sport. It's the really only true global sport, and it's not only global from a participation standpoint, but the emotions that are entrenched in the world about our sport are second to none. And so that's why domestic leagues and competitions are so important, but they have to be bridged with international competition, whether it be at the club level or national team level.
I know I said it was the last one. I have one more, if that's okay. I just thought of something, and I think it's important that I bring it up. And it's women's football, actually, because the women's game, more money is pouring into the game. We've seen it now, particularly in the UK with the domestic TV deals and everything. What is your view there, and what we can do better here in the region? And are we doing what we need to do here in the region? And how can we kick on and help the women in this region get close to what's happening in Europe?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm concerned about it from our regional standpoint because I think you see the NWSL. My hat's off to them, but it's not easy. Although I think they've done quite well this year, navigating through the pandemic, but also getting some good TV ratings. But you see how many players are now going to Europe. I think one of the areas we need to really build up. Team level, because in a lot of our countries, national teams are almost like club teams because there's a lack of club football. And so if they can expand that national team program, at least they get a big pool of girls that they can expose to an elite level. And so, unlike, and I hate to compare it because, I don't like comparing the women's game to the men's game because it's football. But the men's game, I went through club and then national team. I think through the women's game, you need to be a bit more strategic. Of course, you need to develop the club football through leagues, but also I think you can accelerate the development of women's football through national teams, through more competitions. I think we need more national team competitions, not just a qualifier every 4 years and a World Cup every 4 years. Because what happens, for instance, even in the US, which are world champions, they win the World Cup and then everybody waits till the next World Cup. We need to build between that so there's more relevancy, there's more, in the game through competition, and so we're looking at that. In fact, it's part of our strategy, our women's strategy through Karina. In fact, she and her team and my competitions team have developed a new competition strategy, which I just saw for the first time last week. Obviously, I can't divulge what it is, but I'm pretty excited about it. And we're hoping that it's got to go through a process in terms of governance, but we're hoping that we can announce something in that light, which will have more touch points between World Cups for our teams to come together and play. And because to me, that's important. And also, we talk about equality, and I understand the issue, and I know the fight that's been going on with respect to the lawsuit in the U.S. I won't touch that because it's still ongoing. But to me, where the equality has to really start is at the youth team level. For instance, I see no reason. One can make arguments at the sharp end of the game. In terms of, revenue you bring in or revenue you don't bring in, whatever. And I've seen those arguments. But I'm just talking at the development level. There's no revenue. It's all expenditure. And I don't see why, for instance, that a U17 team, a boys team needs to have more of a budget than a girls team. It shouldn't happen. I'm not saying it has to be equal because there's different cycles. There's different ways of using that money. I get that. If it's a World Cup cycle or not a World Cup cycle, I get it because it's fluid. But for the most part, I think those age groups leading up to U20, that's where the equality has to start. because if you look at a team like Jamaica that went to the World Cup, and it's a great story, and they actually competed quite well, and they have great athletes. The real issue between a Jamaica and, let's say, a European country, or even our top countries here in CONCACAF, is look at the youth caps these girls had compared to the other ones. So a Jamaican girl would have single-digit youth caps compared to, a Dutch girl that had 70. So that's a massive difference. And that means she's had the ability to develop through the national team program and obviously her club program. But, so that to me is really important, to increase the amount of games that our girls play, our young girls play in our region is very, very important, because the more they can play, the more they're going to be ready when they get to the senior team and they look across and they go, okay, I played as many games and prepared as much to play against you as you have. So you know what? I like my chances. That's a difficult situation. I'm not sure, other than US and Canada, I'm not sure how many of our girls in our confederation can say that. And so, and as that confederation, my responsibility is not just to the two obvious, it's also to the other 38 that need to really, invest and develop women's football as much as they develop on the boys' side.
Right.
Well, it's been great to catch up with you, Vic. We've run out of time before we got a chance to fix the handball law, unfortunately. So yeah, we'll have to save that for another day.
No problem. I think what we can do is just tape defenders' arms to their bodies, and that'll eliminate it. So,
listen, you can next time you speak to President Infantino, you can tell him that the solution is that anytime the ball strikes a hand in the box, whether it's deliberate, not deliberate, it's an indirect free kick, unless you're stopping a goal being scored with that arm, and then it's a penalty. So there you go.
And then I'll throw another one at you. How about the offside rule?
Wow,
that's another one.
Yeah, we unfortunately we don't have all day. So
no, we don't. So all right,
thanks, Vic.
Thanks, Vic.
Thanks, Vic. Great job.
Montagliani, the president of CONCACAF, vice president of FIFA, with us here on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore. We are building up to Decision Day on Major League Soccer on Sunday, when Toronto FC still have a chance to get the Supporters' Shield heading into the final game of the season. TFC are at New York Red Bulls. Philadelphia Union are at home to New England Revolution just before we bring on Justin Morrow. It's going to be an interesting Sunday, especially now, KJ, after Seattle and Portland's results last night mean that we're now down to the final two teams in this Supporters' Shield race.
Yeah, two of the best teams in MLS, no question about it. You've got one team that's consistent in winning and one team that hasn't won anything yet, which is another interesting side of it too. And we're massive fans of Philadelphia Union on this show. They deserve to be there. They produced a lot of talent. They're one of the best teams. And they've also lost and beaten TFC as well. It's a nice little rivalry there. But yeah, this is going to be fun. I know you guys will be commentating on the game, one game, but I'll be in the studio with lots of stuff. I'll be texting you lots of goal updates, Luke, so you can give the viewers a little bit what's going on in the Philly game. But when games are being played at the same time and there's a lot on the line, I love that kind of stuff. And it'll be fun. It's good. And TFC have done exactly, I'm sure, what they set out to at the start of the season, not knowing that they will play 19 away games out of 23, and that would be to try and win a trophy at the end of the regular season, and they're still there, and that's I think a fantastic accomplishment based on what they've had to go through.
Let's head to TFC's American base in Hartford, and Justin Morrow, TFC defender, is with us now. Justin, thanks a lot for joining us. So much to get into here on Footy Talks. Appreciate you taking the time right now. Before we dig into everything else, just in general, team had the chance to come home a little earlier in the week. Now back preparing for the game on Sunday. How's everyone feeling right now after what has been obviously a very difficult few months?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. Like you said, we were able to get back to Toronto for these past couple of days, get a nice mental refresher. It's always nice to see the family after being away for so long. Bring everyone back into a good mood. And now we're back in Hartford preparing for Sunday. Everyone's excited. Everyone's ready to go.
What's it like for you, obviously, with being away from the family, just from a human point of view, rather than that of an athlete, and just over the course of the last however many months it's been, all of that time you're spending on the road, how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I think it's an underwritten story about what the Canadian teams have had to endure this season, to go down and leave our families and be away from home so much, and what we're dealing with. But where we're at right now at the end of the season, like you said, playing for 3 trophies, it's a testament to our whole club, from management, ownership, all the way down to the players, doing a fantastic job dealing with the circumstances, the club putting us in the best position to win, and the players going through a lot of emotional stress to be able to perform week in, week out on the field and still get results.
Justin, on that note, let me ask you a little bit about life balance, because Thierry Henry and a few other people from the Whitecaps have told us recently that the hardest thing for them was that when they're on the road and they lose a game or things don't go well, it's just 100% soccer consuming their lives the entire time, because they just go back to their room and they haven't got the family to distract them. I know obviously there's been a bit different this right now with the US election going on, and there's a lot of other things that could be provided as distraction, but you've done a fantastic job as well with the Black Players for Change. How's the life balance been for you during this whole time, even when you've been away from your family?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. The hardest part is that it's different than being in a preseason or in a tournament where you can go out and find some other outlets. Like, it's literally, we're here, we're at the hotel, we have all of our meals together, we go out to training together, we go to the games together, but guys aren't venturing out of the hotel very much. So you're spending hours on top of hours in the hotel. The club has done a really good job to have some activities for us in the hotel, different games. Guys get together, play video games, play poker and whatnot. But after weeks and weeks of doing that, it gets old, and so it's hard to find that balance. Myself, dealing with a lot of the stuff going on with Black Players for Change, the election, there's lots of current events right now that are keeping me busy off the field as well. So I've been able to find a good balance personally.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about that, please, Justin. The coalition you set up, Black Players for Change, the successes that you've had so far, maybe some things that are planned moving forward. But you guys have mobilised so quickly. You've got a great group of people behind you, and you've got some fantastic support. But some of your campaigns so far, to me, have been so inspiring and so quickly brought together. It's absolutely incredible, and credit must go to you and the rest of the people involved.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been an absolute whirlwind to get to the point where we are today. Like you said, things just moving so fast, flying by the seat of our pants. Credit to all of our team, all of our guys that are putting in the work. We're jumping on Zoom calls routinely. We're sorting out things. A lot of what we've done up until this point has been for recognition, acknowledgement, awareness of the problems. So whether that's in-game protests, not playing the moment we took with the rest of the professional sports world to pause on August 26th and not play those games and stand up and make a statement after what happened in Kenosha. You see the Black Lives Matter t-shirt that we've done. A lot of that stuff has just been acknowledgement. And now as an organization, we're starting to move into the programming and the initiative and getting into the things that we're going to be doing for the future. And the future existence of this organization to make the change that we've talked about. So we've started with mobilizing our fans and engaging our fans to get involved in the election that's happening right now. And further beyond that, we're starting to develop programs and initiatives that will happen in local markets. I've been speaking to the club a lot at Toronto FC to make sure that we're doing the right things, and the leadership has been fantastic here with Larry and Ali and Masai and Pinball being such a big leadership group in terms of professional sports in North America on this topic. So we're starting to do the right things in Toronto and making sure that we're doing that as well in local markets outside of Toronto.
I know you don't do any of it for the recognition for yourself, but you are nominated for MLS Works Humanitarian of the Year this year as Toronto FC's nomination for the work that you've done as the executive director of Black Players for Change, also the work that you've done in terms of the voting. And in the past as well in Toronto, you've had your summer reading schools, that sort of thing that you've done. Athletes don't have to care. They don't have to show they care. But you do, and you go above and beyond. Has that always been something that has been within you in terms of wanting to use a platform for good? Or is that something that's grown the last few years? Where does that come from, Justin, within you?
Yeah, I think it comes from my humble beginnings. Born and raised not too far away from Toronto and Cleveland, in a working class city, to working class parents that provided me all the opportunities to get to where I am today, but worked really hard to give me those opportunities. And with that came good education, a religious upbringing that meant that I was going to give more of myself than what was needed or asked for. And me putting that positivity out in the world is me envisioning the change that I talk about now that I want to see, and hope that we can embody as a greater people, because that's really what our world is needing at this moment.
And Justin, is it driven also, coming back to your point you were saying before about acknowledgement and the wonderful fast work that you guys have done, is it also driven for people of the next generation within MLS as well? Because when I speak to people like in the past, Jeremy Obobasi and Mark Anthony Kay, I know that that's come up quickly. It's hard for young players, and I know you're still, you won't necessarily class yourself as a young player, but you're still very much a young man. It's sometimes hard for people to think other than themselves. But what's really hit me is that you guys are already thinking about players who are young boys right now, who are not even in MLS, and what can help, how this is going to help them going forward as we're making a change, not just for this generation, but forever and past generations when we're not even here.
Absolutely. Our platform is very large. We know that, and we carry that responsibility really well, and we wear that on our sleeve every day. And we want to create access to the game for our Black community that is excluded because of the pay-to-play model. We want to make sure that there's more Black head coaches, more Black executives. But what you're talking about, being the organization that fights for the future generation, we're at the forefront of that, doing that inside Major League Soccer and outside Major League Soccer as well, what we're starting to do in the local communities and the local markets. So that's something that's always on our mind. The majority of us grew up and raised in North America, knowing the challenges that young Black boys and girls face to get to where we are today. We want to make sure that we're guiding them and opening up opportunities, giving them all the tools that they need to succeed on and off the field, so that, like you're saying, in the future we can have equal representation in the sport.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely incredible, and I know you're a guy that's supported me in so many things, Justin, whether it be visiting, an underprivileged area for a reading thing, or being a support for a cancer charity. You're always there, and you're always willing to give your time and your brain and your expertise and your profile to anything that's of value. And I think that's phenomenal. It's a great part of what makes you a brilliant guy. But I want to pivot a little bit and talk about on the field. And you're obviously injured right now. How are you feeling about that? How excited are you for the playoffs? And it's one thing doing all these things, but you're a guy that loves football, and I suppose you want to be back out there playing the game that you love.
Absolutely. Dying to not be out there with my guys fighting at the end of the day. But to be honest, we've all done such an incredible job to get to this point. I'm so excited for Sunday. I know we're going to put an amazing effort out there and see where everything lies. But to be at this moment is just really incredible after everything that's happened in 2020. And my stuff personally aside, I'm just really proud of this club and where we're at and how we're showing up, because I just don't know how some of these guys are doing it, and we've continued to rise to the occasion again and again, and hopefully we can do it again on Sunday and beyond that as well.
How much of it is down to the experienced core that you have at the club and the players that have been through, never situations like this before, but you've been together as a group now for a long time. Does that help when you have to face these challenges?
Absolutely. It's a big strength of ours. And I think even more importantly than that, you see when guys have to come in and do a job, they're able to do it. They're able to fit in pretty seamlessly. A lot of guys have success within our team because of that structure that you're talking about, the understanding that the players have with each other and the way that we want to play. I think Greg and the coaching staff do an amazing job of really creating a philosophy of play here that's evident in our results, evident in when you watch us play. And that's what makes it so easy for players to step in and have success here. You've seen Pablo doing well here this year, Tony doing well as he come in, as the other guys do. It's really a testament to our coaching staff and the group that's been around for a decent amount of time now.
Justin, some of us in the media are blessed and fortunate to have a ballot to fill out at the end of this season where we've got to name our awards. And I mean, it's no surprise to anybody, but I'm writing Alejandro Posula next to my MVP award. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of your own analysis on what you've seen from him. I know it's your second season now playing with him, but it almost seems like last season was good, but it almost seems like he's taken another gear up. We see it on the field. You're with him every day. What's it like being around a player like that on and off the field?
Yeah, Alejandro's, I think his skills and stats speak for themselves. I don't think I have to speak about that anymore. I think the bigger thing for me is his personality and how good it is and how important it is for our team. You know, having DPs that always want to play, always want to be on the field, that want to win day in, day out are so important for the success of any club. And he is that. He's got a really good way with the guys. He's serious when he needs to be. He's joking when he at other times. And his personality just clicks and fits really well with the rest of the guys. So he's been a really good addition for us and obviously one of the key factors in our success.
Is there one eye on Philly in New England on Sunday, or is it just do your own job and see what happens?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, these days are fun when everyone's playing at the same time. When everything is on the line in the biggest moments, it doesn't happen so often, especially when it comes down to the very end, like it has this year, with two teams fighting for the trophy on the last day. It's going to be a special day and a day that a lot of Toronto FC fans will remember for a long time to come.
I was just looking up here because sometimes my mind plays tricks on me, but it was every time TFC plays the New York Red Bulls, of course, we can't not talk about the Justin Morrow hat trick.
Right? That's right.
What a day that was.
Yeah, I thought about that as well. You know, playing the Red Bulls for the Supporters Shield back in 2017 and ending the way that did. Incredible moments, you know, the only hat trick of my professional career, moments that I'll never forget for a lifetime. Those are the stories that you tell the children and the grandchildren when it's all said and done. Just incredibly grateful to be a part of that team in that moment in history, in Toronto FC's history.
Just Googling that now, the first headline that comes up is Morrow hat trick leads TFC to first Supporters Shield. That might not happen at the weekend, I'm guessing.
Hey, you had some chances recently on that left-hand side. And you playing like left striker. You had like three. You could have had a hat trick in the first half, mate.
Yeah, I need to polish off my striker boots there and get some of those shots on goal. But it was fun being higher up in the field, man. You guys know that I love that always.
I will say, though, just for the record, I did have a dream a couple of nights ago that Philly were going to be losing and their game finishes and it's stoppage time and TFC are trailing at Red Bull Arena and Quentin Westberg comes up and scores the goal that wins the Supporters Shield for TFC. So I just want that on record in case for some reason at the weekend that happens. That was something I had a dream about. Maybe more realistic as a Morrow hat trick. We'll wait and see. But thanks for joining us, Justin. Really appreciate your time. And we spoke to Ali Curtis a couple of weeks ago about fans like it, or fans should like it and appreciate it when clubs stand for something and they stand for values and they see their players standing for values that they value. So I think a lot of TFC fans would like to pass on their appreciation for what you do and for what your team has done in standing up for things, not just performing on the pitch, but performing off it as well this season. So thanks for doing everything that you're doing.
Amen.
Justin Morrow with us.
Yes, thank you guys. Proud to do it in our city is in Toronto.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Justin. All the best.
Let you get back to your ping pong tournament or whatever it is that's going on this afternoon. The ball hockey, I don't know, there in Hartford. The end of the season is fast approaching. What the players have been through is incredible in terms of being away from their families and everything they've had to go through on top of dealing with COVID and the changes that has brought in terms of the schedule this season. And then you see someone like Justin Morrow and everything else that he has had to deal with as well. On top of all of this, it's quite incredible, Stevie. I mean, you would know as a player, a lot of players say that they are just 24/7 fully focused on the game and when's the next game and what's happening and preparing for that game. Sometimes there are bigger things that need to be dealt with. But that also creeps into, players are very superstitious or whatever it is in terms of the way you do things, very regimented. But that must have been thrown up in the air completely this season for someone like Justin, who has had so much to be doing.
Yeah, first of all, I think that mentality of just doing your job and being a football player is long gone. It's a bygone era to just think that that's the only thing you can do. More than an athlete's a slogan that gets branded around often these days, thanks to these incredible athletes, and it's because they realise that they can use their profile and their platform to do more for themselves, to do more for other people, whether it be philanthropic or creating some other form of support for anybody. So I think that the work that Justin Morrow and many other athletes are doing is just a sign of the times, and I credit them for it. And they've been incredible at it. But KJ, the thing that athletes have, maybe more than most people in the world, is the mental resilience to just focus on, they really have a clear idea how to distinguish things and put them into compartments and really get themselves prepared to just go out there and perform and to do something that gives a lot of people in the world joy. And, I credit them for that, because even being an athlete myself and then being a bit detached from that for, I don't know, it's about 5 or 6 years now.
You're still an athlete, really. You're still an athlete at heart. I mean, I've seen you run to the buffet and, the free TSN meal.
Into it. You can see what effort you put into, being that focused and resilient. And so, I'm in awe. The credit to them, the way that they go about it is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm in awe too. And the drive and the internal desire to get where they needed to become as an athlete is similar to the drive to what Justin is doing with the other things. And what he accomplishes on the field every day is important for the club that he works for the fan bases, the people who watch the show, for his own professional career and a legacy, if that's important. Some people say it is, some people it's not. It depends whether you're interested in that stuff. And there's no right or wrong answer. Those things are all important for himself to do that. But the other stuff it comes with compassion for others as well. And he just uses that drive that he's got to do that with the other thing. And for me, just putting a bow on it from a Toronto FC point of view is, when you have, it's not athletes, it's not footballers, it's when you have human beings like that, you have to do everything you can to keep all of those guys, because they're culture setters. They're the culture setters for business in life. And that's what, you have people like that doing that. Then you have other people who are not necessarily playing, but okay, he's talking about what he's talking about now with Pinball Clemens, who's another one like that, and Masai and Ali Curtis. These guys, the drive that they're standing for something that is more important than winning football matches in the end. And that's back to what we've talked about a lot on this show, and the morals and values of what you have in life, and then putting a smile on your face and making a difference. And then you can still go and deliver as well and being a soccer player. And it's absolutely wonderful to see, and it's making a difference in people's lives. And ultimately, that's what we all want to do.
Just finally on the show, and it ties in quite well with talking about making a difference, because we talked a few weeks ago about Ayo Akinola and that story that he put, what he's fought through to get to where he is right now, the TSN Sports Center story. Ayo Akinola is our Benjamin Moore do-it-yourself play of the game to finish the show this week. TFC against Miami last weekend. They're trailing as they come into that second half. And we've seen before what Ayo Akinola is capable of using the strength that he has got. But every different aspect of this play, using that strength to beat the defender, but the way he brought it down, Stevie, and then the cool, calm, the thought that went into the finish as well, just tucking it into the corner there. And I know you want to give credit to the second best number 13 in TFC history as well, Patrick Mullins, for the part he played in this. But just fantastically worked goal.
Changed the game, didn't it? Just changed the whole mentality, the whole outlook of the game. Just one moment of just incredible strength and skill and awareness, getting a ball into the box. It just shows you, you get the balls into the box, things happen. And when you've got a guy like that, he just changed the game in an instant, KJ, through a moment of genius. And he was quiet. And this is one of the key attributes of Akinola, is that he can be very quiet in a game. We've saw it with the guys like Shearer and I guess less so an Henry, but an Aguero or a real finisher can be doing nothing, and they can burst into life in one instance with a moment of quality, and that was that, wasn't it? And it gave TFC the platform to go in and win the 3 point.
I think that's a really good point you mentioned there. And that is down to, again, internal confidence. And, you know, some people would say, I need to touch the ball. I need to touch the ball. I'm not getting in the game. I can't get in the game here. I've got nothing for 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Others just say, just let me get the ball eventually and I will make a difference. And that's what TFC miss when he's not on the field, or Josie Altidore at his full peak. And when they're not on the field, we can talk about tactics and whoever you're playing there, or Mullins as a 9, or Pozuelo's false 9, all of it. It doesn't matter. You haven't got that number 9. You haven't got that difference maker who can change a game like that. And that's the patience already that he's showing at 20. It's a really good sign. You know, the game slows down at the crucial moment for him. That ball comes over, he touches it. He doesn't rush it. The second touch off his chest is just as important as the first one. Sets himself up to play the ball and past the goalkeeper. You know, he's been an absolute more than a lifeline for TFC, because without Josie Altidore this season again, and it's allowed Greg Vanney to get the best out of the aforementioned MVP Alejandro Posula in better positions, because he hasn't played him there, because Akinola for the most part has played in that position, and it's been enormous for TFC.
TFC heading into decision day against the Red Bulls on Sunday. We'll have it covered for you on TSN, not just the TFC game, but everything else that is happening around Major League Soccer. Thanks to Victor Montagliani, the president of CONCACAF. Great insight from him. Thanks to Justin Morrow as well. And as always, thanks to you for watching. We should just say next week, the show will be on Friday rather than Thursday because of the Scottish match against... Who are they playing?
Serbia.
Hey?
Serbia.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So we're moving to Friday next week because of the Scottish defeat to Serbia. We'll be live on TSN with all the Euro games on the Thursday. So we'll see you next Friday for Footy Talks as we wrap up decision day and look ahead to the playoffs. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks,
as always.
everybody. Be safe.
Welcome to Footy Talks. Footy Talks. Footy Talks, your Thursday footy fix. Luke, Stephen, and KJ with you as always. And today,
for me, it would be great to come back to Toronto. Even if I can come back as a player, it will be great because I will love it.
They're moving back to Toronto and they want to move back into the house. So within the next month and a half, I think I got to find a new house.
I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe because I sleep a little bit on the plane.
But as soon as I looked up and saw the trajectory, yeah, I knew it was a goal. And then from that moment on, I kind of I lose my mind a little bit and don't know what to do. So I ran to the bench.